Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out on a hot Saturday, 4th of July weekend. Appreciate you all being here. My name's Corey Fry. I'm the exhibitions manager here at the Dell Plain Arts Center. We're excited about today's talk with Joh Ricci. Well, Joh Ricci, at 8 years old, was taught by her great aunt to crochet, and it began her continuing interest in creative endeavors. She has a bachelor's of fine arts with a concentration in fiber work from Kurztown University in Pennsylvania, and she's taught at numerous art centers and institutions, including here at the Dell Plain. And Joh has a class coming up, weaving on a simple frame loom, right?
Yep.
That's coming up in August. It's August 10th, 11th, and I think 17th.
Then the next, it's
Yeah.
3 days. So it's
Great.
Saturday, Sunday, then the next Saturday.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like it'll be fun.
It's a long, intense class.
Okay.
But I've never had an unhappy customer.
Nice. Great. That's awesome. So if you're interested in that, or you know somebody that might be, you can sign up at the front desk or give us a call. We'll sign you up for it. Without further ado, Joh, you can come on up. Give her a hand.
I could really elaborate. Well, I'm not much of a public speaker, so this is a nice, intimate group, so I'm really happy about that in some ways. But like Corey said, my name is Joh Ricci. I'm actually from Gettysburg, PA. So I was kind of leery coming down here today because I'm thinking, oh gosh, how long is it going to take me to get out of Gettysburg on the 4th of July weekend when there's reenactments going on? But it's where I live, and it's a tourist town, and you get over it. It is what it is. But anyway, yes, I did my first fiber start was with my great aunt. I could remember her teaching me how to crochet, and I had like a green Afghan made afterwards, and it was really cool. She was actually a nun, and she was a very cool nun. She taught first grade. So she was kind of, relaxed, and she would come and visit, and she'd be watching the Phillies game. She was a big Philly, baseball fan, so she would be watching baseball and, crocheting away. So I think that's where the bug for me started with fiber. And then I really didn't take my art seriously at all. I mean, I goofed off in grade school, high school, and then my folks said, well, we'd really like you to go to college. And I thought, okay, what am I gonna go for? So growing up in a small coal mining town, at that time we were able to go hiking in the woods. There was no fear of being alone or with a group of kids. So we would hang out in the woods, and I would be collecting rocks and bringing them home. So my mom had quite the unusual rock garden. And I'm thinking, okay, let's see, archaeology or art. I guess I started at the beginning of the alphabet. So that was, I didn't get very far after that. So I thought, well, let me go for art. I have, some interest in that, and let's see where it goes. So actually it's Kutztown University, which is kind of, if you're not from Pennsylvania, it's a small Amish town, Kutztown, PA, between Reading and Allentown. And a small college, and that's what I was looking for. And I had, my first elective was Weaving 1. And man, I'll tell you, I was like a fish to water. I never looked back. I concentrated on fiber from that very first elective, and I had a very encouraging professor, and I was sort of her guinea pig. She would give me, hey Joh, try this out, and no one else would, but I would. I loved experimenting, and I think that really seasoned me for how I am now in my artwork. You'll see in the show, and I'll start the slides, but you see in the show just a brief synopsis of the show. I feel like I am a fiber artist. That is my concentration. And my main focus is knotting, where I concentrate on a number of macrame knots, and I make sculptural work out of those knots as I'm almost building a cover over a carved or sculpted form or found objects that I come across. So that is my main thing. And then probably back in 2018, 6+ years ago, I thought, I'd really like to start painting. I'd like to just get a big canvas and throw paint on it and go big instead of like this very intimate work that I do. But that didn't really happen. I had a hard time staring at a blank canvas, which, that's why you do the undercoating now. You put, a color on there so it's not white and you're afraid of it. So I started just fooling around painting in oils, and a lot of my oil paintings turned out to be very thick. I just loved taking the spatula and making thick impasto painting, and I realized that it was replicating my fiber art. It was textural to a certain degree, and that was kind of interesting for me to see that, and it wasn't even planned, it just happened. And then I started embroidering and doing thread art, and the two sort of started coming together where I would have these unfinished canvases, or I would go with friends to paint night, as a girls' night out. And I had these canvases that weren't finished. I'm thinking, what? I'm just going to add, colored thread to it and start stitching into them and combining the fiber and the paint together, which I really like doing because I can't get away from the fiber. So I like the connection where I'm tying in a couple, different mediums and making mixed media pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and start the slides. And please, if you have any questions, you don't even have to raise your hand, but just yell them out, okay? So, and Corey was gracious enough to take the photographs of work for me. He was on his own. We went over Monday. I was like, this would be a nice group. This would be a nice group. But he threw in some pieces that I wasn't expecting, but it's all good. So this first grouping, the pod, the knotted piece, was actually created first. And that is a sculpted form, and it's all knots. It's artist-dyed thread. The small spheres are really fine nylon thread, while the orange, and it goes to yellow and then white on the underside, that is a heavier nylon. And I started working in this heavier nylon thinking it would go faster. I was so wrong because it's so slippery that every knot that I tied, I'd have to retie it, when I went back to that row or that section. And then the piece above it is, the bottom piece is called autumnal equinox, and that actually goes on the wall as well. And the piece above it is sun salutation, and that's one of those canvases that I love orange, green, and yellow. And I thought, I'm just going to make this canvas. I'm just going to fool around with the colors. And that sat for years. And then finally I pulled it out and I was like, wow, I'm going to do this and this. And I could sort of see this and this going on. So I played with it. And it's funny how they're years apart from those two pieces. But I think subconsciously, my work ties together regardless of being a painting or being a sculpture piece. And when I put these two together, it was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I was kind of happy with those two going together. And this is a closer look at sun salutation. It's acrylic paint, and I am stitching into the canvas. And I did some block work on it, and that's what I came up with. And when I teach, I was teaching at Montessori school up in Chambersburg, and I always tell the kids, when we did an artwork or a piece, I'd say, is that the way you want to display it? Try turning it around. It gives it a whole different perspective, or it may look better than the way you actually worked on it. And I played with that, and then this is how I worked on it, and this is how it stayed, because when I turned it upside down, it looked like a smiling face with the lines on the bottom. So it was like, no, I don't want someone like a chin and a grimace type thing going on. So, but I do love to play with turning my work around. And then this is the autumnal equinox, the pod. And this is part of a series. I had 3 pods made, and this is the one that I still have in my collection. And then it seems like I always go into these small collections or series of work. This is Bluebird. This is an oil painting. And I'm just going to flip to the next one. This is a sculpture piece, and this is all crochet. And then this piece is knotted. And I wanted to show all these 3 pieces together, or right away, because they became like this small series when I was going through a difficult time in my life. And actually, Entangled Flight, this piece was the first one that I did, and I had 3 knotted pieces that were shown as a group in galleries, and they all had something to do with control, the difficult time. This particular piece, it's all knotted, and then I have Japanese paper on the inside. And then these are actually locust thorns that I took from a locust tree when I had my farm. And then you can't see it here, but there is a bluebird, a paper bluebird right in the center that's decoupaged in with a lot of the words. And these seem to have just went from this one, and then I started crocheting again, and this evolved. I have no idea where this was going to go at the time. Bad or good, I don't know. It's a curse or a blessing. But when I start a piece, I just get this and how many of us are artists here? I know a couple. Okay, so when you get that light bulb moment, and you go, oh my gosh, I gotta try this. And I do that. I'm working on 3 pieces right now, and I'm sitting there working on them, and I'm going, oh, I want to try that. These ideas just pop into my head. So that's what happened with this one. It's I had the hand, and I'm thinking, I'm just going to take this small crochet thread, and I'm going to crochet it, and let's see where it goes. And it just evolved into this, and it actually became part of this Bluebird series. And this one is called Does the Caged Bird Sing? And then this one came later, and I think this was when things were starting to look up for me, and the bluebird has that freedom that it's out of that cage now, and it has a mind of its own, and it can just go wherever it wants to a certain degree. It's still within the house, so there's some ties there still. But those are part of that small series that I worked on as well. And then this piece, this is called Earth Day. And this is actually in a private collection right now, and I borrowed it for the show because this is one of my favorite pieces and I wanted to see it again. But this piece was one of my very first knotted pieces. And I do work over a form, so all my work is solid. I think my knotting is tight enough that it can hold by itself, but I like working over something that I'm carving or sculpting. I like holding the form. I actually work with my feet up on an old trunk, which is my coffee table, and the work is, I hold it between my knees. That's a vise that, that's just holds it in place, and I could rotate it and stuff like that. So, and this piece is, I did a lot of the signature patterning in the center, which I call it a flare. And it's actually really interesting because the knots that I'm using on the inside of this piece and the knots on the outside are exactly the same knot. It's how I'm using them, and it's the materials that I'm using that's giving it that different look to it. So, and then this piece is, we're back to crochet, and this piece is actually based on, it's a temperature wheel, and I had this idea. It was like, oh, I really want to do that. So it took me probably about 2 months to really design what I wanted to do and how I wanted to go about this piece. And there's actually another piece in the gallery this is my spiral, and there's one from the same year that's sort of a landscape. So it's a long rectangular piece that just has the color of the thread going from bottom to top. This one actually started, I started this on Leap Day of 2020. And of course, a couple months after that, everything went, crazy for us. And, I just started working on this, and I'd pick it up and I'd work on this between other projects. And it was fun, but it was very hard to do. And what I did was, I think I had like 14 or 15 colors, and they're based on the high temperature of each day. And my source of that is the Gettysburg Times. And what I did was, in the center, I started with black, and then purple was actually February 29th, 2020. And that purple represents the high temperature. I think it's between 30 and 35 degrees. So they're in increments, my temperatures. So that is 366 days. The little black lines break up the months. So where you see the break, if you follow it, you could see, okay, well, after February, I have a black line, and then it goes for the 30 days in March, or 31. So, so that was an interesting, I'm still documenting, it's 5 years later, and I'm still documenting the high temperatures, hoping to get this series, like 5 pieces, and really see them together. But I don't know if I'll live that long, so we'll see. And then I think this might be the last pieces that Corey photographed. But the top is probably one of my most textural oil paintings. And this is called Road to Hideaway Ridge. And it's just layers and layers of paint. And I did some swirly designs, textural designs in the bottom and throughout. And then the piece on the bottom is called Diversity. And again, that light bulb moment, I had the rings, and I went into my storage closet, which is busting at the seams, and I went, well, let me pick out 5 cords that I can use. And this is crocheted, and this is actually a really unique material or cording. It's a cotton, in the inside of it is cotton, and then it's wrapped with rayon. So it's very shiny and colorful, and I'll show you this one. And it is variegated. So, and you'll see that I mean, it looks so much better on this screen than that screen probably, but I enjoyed working with that. And diversity, it's actually 5 pieces, and this one's representational of my family. My mom, dad, I have an older brother, and myself, and we're all the circles. And my sister, who had passed, she's actually the square. Not that she was square, you know, but she had a tough life, and she was gay, and it came out where, you know, this piece just sort of fell together. I couldn't make one with five rings, and that's why I called it diversity. And I actually submitted this to a show that had something to do with, you know, gender and, you know, all the rights and everything like that. And this is what I came up with this piece. So it was kind of one of those, again, light bulb moment, and it just turned into this piece that became very personal to me. And then this is Road to Hideaway Ridge, which is a little bit closer look to it. So again, you know, I look at these pieces and how they come together, not specifically saying, well, this is the sculpture piece and I'm going to make a painting to go with it. They just, you know, they just followed into that path. So I think that's it for me. I'd be so happy to answer any questions or comments, or if you want me to go back and talk a little bit more about a piece, I'd be happy to do that. But if not, I certainly appreciate you guys coming out of the heat. My apartment's on a 3rd floor walk up, so I was like, I couldn't wait to get in my car. So you know, let alone here. So, but I hope you enjoy the show. And I'll be here for a couple hours to answer any questions. So that's it. Yep.
When you're doing your crocheting or your knotting, are you affixing them to the form underneath, or?
What I do is
This tension.
This one started all freehand, so I had enough to go around one of the rings, and then I work right on the piece.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then
So everything is knotted together to hold it in place, and it's 3-dimensional.
say that again.
So you're knotting everything together when you're creating 3-dimensional shapes, or are you somehow stitching as well?
No, it's this one. This one is a good example. What I did was I started flat, and I pinned it into a macrame board. So that center, until the sides started coming up, then I had to put it on the form that I created, and then I worked directly right on the form. And the knots, I'm like knotting right against the form. So, and same thing with crochet. I think you have to, I have to look at a piece and go, well, I need something. I can't just start right on the shape. I need something to create first, and then have enough to hold on to the shape that I'm working. And then, yeah, and I don't use any special tools except my hands. I use a needle at the very end, because, you know, you're ending up with all these cords, and you slowly have to, you know, trim them off, and then at the very end you have to sew those last few cords up into the piece. So, yeah, so that's what I do. So, yep. Did that answer your question, Kasra?
I think so.
Okay.
But it's because they're held on there by the fact that it's
They're so tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, the knotting itself holds them against, and I mean, there's not much separation between, you know, the piece itself and the knotting. So, and I have like a hinged lamp over me, and gosh, sometimes I feel like one of those French fries in McDonald's, like, you know, it's like, oh my God. I think that's why my hair is so light too sometimes on one side, but the lighting helps a lot too. You know, I cannot not work under good light.
Oh, what made you choose fiber arts over other modes of paint? Like, I know you have paintings in there, but they also have more of a 3D aspect with the textures you're doing. What made you want to go
Right.
3D?
Well, in the beginning, I don't think you were here when we started, and bad. You have detention. I went to, my great aunt taught me how to crochet when I was really young. So I think that was the first, I want to say art form, because I considered it an art form back then, you know? And then when I went to college, I took Weaving 1 as an elective, and it was all bets are off, and went that route. And I actually, I roller coaster, like my, you know, I don't know how many artists actually go through that huge roller coaster, but I did tapestries. I did, when I lived in Milwaukee, I taught myself how to do hand bead weaving. I did that for 16 years, hand bead weaving, doing 20 plus shows on a circuit. I actually was part of the Frederick Festival for a number of years. And then I had enough of that, and I wanted to get back into my fiber. And I didn't have any place to put my, I was back in New Oxford, Pennsylvania. I had a 5-acre farm, and I didn't have a studio big enough for my loom. I have a 45-inch 4-harness loom. And I thought, I gotta get back into this somehow. And I just started doing some playing with the knots. And then it evolved into the sculptural work that I'm doing now. And that was, back in 2006 I started. And I was telling Karen, we were talking about Snyderman Works Gallery in Philadelphia. And back when, we don't want to age ourselves, but back then, when you wanted to get into a gallery and be represented by a gallery, you would send packets of slides out with the cover letter, with the list, with, you know, everything, you know, in a big envelope. And Bruce Hoffman at Snyderman Works Galleries gave me my first shot out of 15 or 14 packets that I sent out. And it took off from there. And then I started doing the Smithsonian Craft Show and the Philadelphia Museum of Art Craft Show and the very high-end show. And I did that for 10 years. And then I sort of was like, I can't do the shows anymore. It's too much work. And so then I went to just galleries, a lot of shows, juried art shows and things like that throughout the country. So, but I wanted to start painting, doing something else too. And painting was like this whole different texture, medium, and like I said before, I just thought I'd take canvases and throw paint on it and I'd be on my merry way. And I tried to do abstract, and I had a really hard time doing abstract. I don't think I could let go that much. But that's how the two sort of started working together. I don't think you were here in the beginning, but this piece, where I started doing the fine embroidery now, and just took this canvas that I prepped for a whole different idea. This is how I would prep my canvases for actually doing oils over it. And it gave me something to work with, but I never knew what I wanted to do with it until I started playing with the embroidery on top of the paintings. And it sort of like pulled those two mediums together for me. So, because I can't give up the fiber. I thought I could, and I just can't. It's in my blood, so. But.
So the previous picture of the nest with the thorns, and you said that the,
Which one?
the kind of the ones with the thorns inside.
Oh,
Yeah, you
this
said
one.
that- oh, wait a minute, it wasn't that one. You said the other one that's round, and you said the inside.
That one.
The inside and outside was the same knot, just done differently.
Right.
So is there, how many knots do you choose from to work with? Are there a variety of knots, or are you just one knot that you manipulate differently?
There's probably 3 knots that I use consistently, but and when I worked on this piece, like the center is a spiral, so every little, if you look at this closer in the gallery, if you see that, like you see the brown coming up, so each row has a knot in it, like each part on one of the flare is an actual knot. And if you follow the spiral, all those are just knots. And then, yes, for the outside, it's the same knots, but like I said, it's the way I'm using them, and the cording is like 6 times as big. So the center is a really fine nylon thread, and then the outside on that last piece I show, Diversity, that's the cording I used on the outside of this piece. But what I did with this was, I took the variegated yarn or cord and I cut each section of color out. So I worked with all little colors so I could do that pointillism with it. So it's not one long piece, it's very time. And I have like way too much time on my hands, you know? But yeah, and it's, you know, if you find the bug, I can't give it up. I mean, I'm working on 2 knotted pieces now, a crochet piece and 1 other piece, and that's how I work. I have to work on, you know, 4 or 5 pieces at the same time, different concept, different colors, different shapes, and I pick the piece that I want to work on depending on my mood. If I pick up a piece, oh my gosh, I got to get this done, and then it's just not going fast enough, I know something's wrong, and I'll go to another piece and then I'll come back to that on another day. And I've learned not to fight the beast. You work with it, even though it seems like I never have finished work because I have like 5 pieces that aren't finished. But that's the way I think I keep my sanity through all of this. So, but yeah. Anything else? No? Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you coming out.